Okay, today we're on lesson 1.4 about writing equations. I will be able to write and solve equations with an emphasis on real-world situations is our focus today. We're going to start off with just some simple writing the numerical phrase with numbers and symbols from a word, a written phrase, okay? So 1 through 4 here. There are kind of keywords that hopefully are review. If you want to think back to those, and I'll kind of box our keywords and write out what those are. So write an equation for each written equation below right here. So the product of a number and 4 increased by 5 is 26. So product is a keyword that tells us to multiply. If they're going to say a number, that's typically going to be our variable, so you can use n or x. 4 is also a number. Increased by, I'm going to include the by there, so increased by is going to tell us to add by 5, and is a keyword for equals, and then 26. So the product of a number n and 4 increased by 5 is 26. So first thing I want to start with is multiplying n and 4. So we know that's like this, but we want to start writing that as just 4n. Okay, and then it says increased by 5, so that means plus 5. And then is, or stands for equals, and the total they give us is 26. We're not solving these, we're just writing. So 2, so again, I'm going to circle my numbers, box my keywords. So 8 equals, sounds pretty straightforward, the difference. So difference tells us to subtract of a number, so there's that variable again. Squared, that means exponent of 2, and 1. So 8 equals the difference of a number squared and 1. So we're going to do a number squared would just be n squared and minus 1. Okay, 3. A number n, and here they specified that you should use n. Before they didn't really say, so we could have used x or another variable. So a number squared, so I write that n squared plus, okay, that tells us to add 8 is, so again, is means equals the same as the quotient. Quotient tells us to divide, as the answer to a division problem, of x and 10. So a number squared plus 8, we got that here, is the same as, you can also think as the same as equals as well, the quotient of x and 10. So I'm going to do x divided by 10. And again, not solving, just setting up. All right, 4. 5 times p, so 5's a number, times tells us to multiply, of course. P less than 20 equals 30. So 5 times less than 20 equals 30. So tricky part here is if it's less than 20, we're actually going to put the 20 first. So 5 times less than 20. Oh, I got to use p though here. So remember they specified 5 times p. So I have 20 minus 5p. Remember when I attach the 5 and the p, that shows multiplication. And then equals 30. Okay, there are some on your homework that should match up to that and look very similar. All right, and now a word problem example, and I'm going to do kind of a little visual here on the right side if you want to do that along with me. So it says, Mark buys a shirt. I'm just going to make some little notes here. So there's 1 shirt and 2 pairs of identical jeans. And that identical is important because that's telling us they cost the same. The shirt costs $28.98, and his total, and total is a keyword telling us one that we're going to add. And then whatever they list, so $72.50, that means that's going to be after our equals. So our question here is, how much does one pair of jeans cost? So the issue with word problems we sometimes run into is there's not necessarily a straightforward, we need to do this every time kind of rule. So you really want to think through the question. First thing you want to think about, okay, what do we know? Well, I know that he had one shirt and that was $28.98, kind of an expensive shirt. And then he had two pair of jeans okay, and each of those we don't know the cost just yet, so I'm going to write this right here. Okay, we also know that the total was $72.50, so I kind of just like to make a note of that down here on the bottom. So that's what we know. What are we looking for? Well, we're looking for the cost of one pair of jeans. What is the unknown number that can be represented by a variable? So whatever we're looking for, we're typically going to pick a variable to represent that. So I'm going to use J is for jeans, or equals represents jeans. D, is there any information that we do not need? So I don't really think they told us anything that wasn't important. Sometimes they will. Sometimes they'll give you like some numbers that maybe you don't need to solve the problem. E, does my final answer make sense? So these E and F kind of go together. What is my answer and does it make sense? So let's go ahead and try to set up this equation. So if I don't know the cost of the jeans, instead of question mark, I want to think we picked J. So J for jeans. And we said that total meant to add. So what I want to think here is $28.98 was the shirt. Okay? If you go shopping, they add the cost of all of the items you buy and they add those up for your total. And then I'm going to add one pair of jeans. I'm going to add another pair of jeans and set that equal to my total. Okay, well, I want to simplify. I know those two jeans are the same, they're identical, so I can combine that to just be two pair of jeans, or 2J. Okay, I know the shirt was included in this, in our total, so I want to take that out to see what is left after doing that. That way I know how much just the jeans cost. And we are assuming that this is the subtotal, so before tax, okay? So let's subtract that out. Oop. Okay, so that now I'm left with, I'm running out of room here, but 2J equals 43.52. Okay, well that's for both of the pairs of jeans. So if I just want one, I'm going to divide that new total by 2. So that tells me that one pair of jeans equals $21.76. Okay, an answer going back to this that would not make sense would be maybe something that's more than this total of $72.50. Okay, so just kind of keep in mind things that may not make sense. Okay, moving on here to just a separate word problem here. Number 1, Tasha makes $12 per hour. Per typically tells us to multiply. At her job, her paycheck was $360. If H represents the number of hours Tasha worked, write an equation to represent her paycheck and find how many hours she worked. So I'm looking for how many hours. So in this case, I always think, okay, I used to make $10 per hour, I'd multiply if I worked 8 hours and I made $80 that day. I multiply those. Since we don't know the hours though, we wanted to think 12 times H, but remember we're trying to simplify that and just make it 12H because that is also multiply, equals, and then her totals, we already have her total paycheck was $360. So I can divide by 12, and that tells me 360 divided by 12 is 30. So H equals 30, or she worked 30 hours. All right, last one here. Jamie works as a real estate agent. She earns 6% commission on any houses she sells. If she made $11,100 on her last sale, how much did the house sell for? So I'm going to use S to represent our sale price of the house. All right. We know her total. So she made $11,100, but we don't know the sale price. So it's going to be something S. Okay. The trick on this part is when you do percents, you have to write as a decimal. And since a percent is out of 100, it's like 6 over 100. But since that's not the most nice fraction to work with, I'm just going to divide that on my calculator. So 6 divided by 100, I know is going to be 0.06. So I can do that over here. So 0.06, I times S, or just leave them connected like that. If this is times, I want to divide to get the sale price by itself. And I know if she's getting a commission that's a percentage, the original sale price should be more than her commission. Okay, so if you get that, it comes out to a sale price of $185,000 for the house. Okay, so again, there's a couple similar to this on your homework, so hopefully these will help you work through those. If you have any questions, of course, message me on Canvas or send me an email. Hope you have a great day.